Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Okay, so the big question now is, how do I sound? Is it much better? Chat wall, let me know. How is the audio? Okay, there we go. That's great. Now we can actually have things going. I mean, like, I know a lot of people are just screaming, look at the comments, but the thing is, though, is that, like, I'm trying to simultaneously do everything. Like, keep in mind, I'm just one person handling everything in this case, so it's not easy to just look at the comments and then, like, have my monologue and, like, say what I want to say and stuff like that. But anyways, at least we got that issue resolved. Now we can go and actually get things started. So welcome everybody to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And let me just say, for those of you who are watching or listening to this in the future, you are definitely lucky that you don't have to go through these issues, and at least you could just go through this episode normally. Now, to just repeat what I tried to say before, I'm just going to say right now that, yeah, it has been a pretty crazy week that I've been through so far. Like, just when I thought that I can go and start a brand new month fresh, and I can go away from that troublesome November month where I just had to go through repairs after repairs after repairs, including what you probably know about what happened with my computer, now I was having some internet issues. And luckily I did manage to fix them, and with the help of my family, of course, to go through all that and to make sure, like, everything is stable right now. Like, I feel very fortunate that at least I do have the capability now with the internet access to actually go and stream an episode, actually. But also, I didn't know that I would start this episode off with a little bit of technical difficulties as well, where the audio was a little bit choppy. So, however, like, now we got all those issues resolved, but now what we are going to be focusing on is not going to be what happened in the past and, like, all the issues from before. We are going to be looking ahead in the future. What is going to be happening in 2021? Because let me tell you, with what's going to be happening next year, it's really going to shape up how things will be overall for the 2020 decade, and it will be a lot different than we could ever imagine. So, with that said and done now, I would like to go into the chat wall and ask you all, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me go and hear it. Are we all set for this one? Let's see. Yes, okay, perfect. A lot of people are ready. That's great to hear. And with that said and done, it is now time that we are going to go and get things started. And with our first story that we have for you today, unfortunately, we will have to go into some sad news, though. This is a little bit unfortunate, mainly because of the fact that this was a series that a lot of people were really getting into, a lot of people were absolutely loving it, and it feels like a series that was getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more episodes would come along and the more seasons that they would create. However, it looks like its time has come to go and officially end, and I guess not all great things can last forever. So with that said, let us now go and discuss about the news related to the DuckTales reboot. Yes, throughout this week, a lot of people were freaking out and speculating about the fact that Disney might have canceled the 2017 reboot of DuckTales, where it started out with some reports, including one reporter from Collider mentioning that the DuckTales reboot, it has officially come to a close, and rumors have pretty much speculated that it was because Disney canceled it, and there was a lot of outrage on the internet. So, like, as you can imagine, with a news like this, it will cause people to go and get angry, and they will add that as part of their reasons to hate 2020 and stuff like that. But however, it seems like later on, though, the rumors seem to be confirmed that Disney did reveal that it has indeed been over. that the DuckTales series is officially done, and the third season would indeed be its final season. Reading from my source here on Variety, a spokesperson from Disney XD stated, "The talented creative team led by Matt Youngberg and Francisco Angones have delivered exceptional storytelling with uniquely reimagined characters for 3 seasons of 75 episodes and more than 15 shorts. While physical production is wrapping, DuckTales continues to be available on Disney channels and Disney Plus around the world, and fans will get an epic season finale in 2021. So it seemed to be pretty much true of the fact that the DuckTales reboot is pretty much gonna be over pretty soon. However, one thing that wasn't true was regarding the fact that it was actually canceled. That was not the case, because one of the showrunners, Matt Youngberg, had to go on Twitter and make a confirmation that it was pretty much intentional, that they did actually create the third season of DuckTales to be the final season of DuckTales. So let me read to you the message that he put out on Twitter, as it states, "We've always said that you have to go into every season of a show as if it's your last. Leave nothing on the table, and have faith that your team will eventually be able to top it. With that in mind, we crafted Season 3 of DuckTales as one focused on legacy, on the future of the Duck family, and what that means, tying into questions and mysteries that were set up way back in the very first episode of our show. So ultimately, we were prepared for this season to be our last. Our whole team is so proud to be a part of the continuing legacy of these characters. Even more so, we're proud of the community that this show has given us, from our dear friends on the crew and cast to all the fans we've met both in person and online who share the same love that we've had for these incredible characters. We're sure to have much more to say later, but right now, we want to thank you for all your kind words and support throughout this whole adventure, and focus on delivering a fittingly epic adventure for Clan McDuck as the series draws to a close. Because at the end of the day, we're all fans, and we're all family. And family truly is the greatest adventure of them all." Huh, that's weird. Usually there's some kind of crash before we finish the "Oh no, the ground! Woo!" from Matt and Frank. So, that's pretty much the big news, or at least the biggest animation news that we have gotten this week, is the fact that the 2017 DuckTales has now officially come to a close. And even though Season 3 is still continuing on, pretty soon by 2021, things will officially be over with the entire series. And honestly, I can pretty much understand why people were a bit depressed when hearing this news, and I understand there was this massive freak out that people were speculating that this thing was canceled and stuff like that, because honestly, it's show business and these things can often happen, because there have been some reports that did state that technically it was true that when it comes to Season 3 of DuckTales, in terms of ratings, like, I know a lot of people have been really enjoying the DuckTales series so far, especially with Season 3, but with its ratings, they definitely were not as strong as they were back in, like, Season 2 or even Season 1, so maybe there is some truth that it could have been canceled by Disney, but the team was pretty much prepared anyways in case they would have to leave. So, but either way, at least the series can have a closure than like suddenly ending it off with a cliffhanger that would never be resolved, because sometimes that could be the most furious things. The most furious thing about a TV show is when like the series was going at a very good pace, and then suddenly just when they would have their season finale with like a massive cliffhanger promising things that would be even bigger, then like they would just never get into it, and that's it. Like, probably one of the best examples that I could think think of is with Spectacular Spider-Man. Like, that series was going really well, and it was going really good, and then suddenly, like, there was that surprising finale, like, the big plot twist that happened at the end of season 2, and then suddenly no more Spectacular Spider-Verse, which is really disappointing because it's like one of the it's like one of the most praised animated Spider-Man shows out there, or probably one of the best animated interpretations of Spider-Man, almost up there with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So it was a bit disappointing, but luckily this doesn't seem to be the case with the DuckTales reboot, and it might actually get a proper finale, a proper closure to not just season 3, but to the entire series, that we can have a proper send-off to this interpretation of Scrooge McDuck, and with Duckburg as well. And I will say, when looking back at this whole season entirely, even though it's technically not done yet, I will say that with what DuckTales has done, it's honestly very much admirable, and I think people might have taken for granted that they don't realize how much of a risk this season or this series actually is. Like, I would actually go and say that this could, like, the 2017 DuckTales reboot is almost like the Disney equivalent of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Like, it's almost like that in terms of the amount of changes and the amount of new things they tried to do with this series in particular, especially coming from a highly beloved and highly nostalgic TV show from the late 1980s. And that's usually a period where a lot of people nowadays would be very much attached to. Like, they would grow some extremely fond memories, and that's why we would see these massive cult followings for shows that came from that era, whether it be like G.I. Joe, or Transformers, or Muppet Babies, or Garfield, or whatever kind of shows that would come out of that era. And DuckTales is definitely not an exception in this case. People love DuckTales, and not to mention the fact that this is actually a show that does feature a lot of Disney's legacy characters. Like, keep in mind, this isn't just like an original series that Disney made just to have some fun adventures with a bunch of ducks. That's not the case. Like, these are characters that have existed for decades, like even back in the days of Walt Disney. Like, characters such as Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Scrooge McDuck, and many more, considering that a lot of the lore of DuckTales does come from the comics, specifically with the Carl Barks comics. And with this new interpretation that they have done, like, in the wrong hands, like, usually with the amount of things that they would do with DuckTales, this would actually be the kind that a lot of people would get pissed off about. Like, if there were a few more mistakes, then you would see the whole internet get triggered. They would go and full-on attack it and make statements that their childhoods were ruined, kind of like in the same veins that, like, we are seeing with shows like Teen Titans Go, or how people reacted to Thundercats Roar and stuff like that. But this did not happen with DuckTales, because they still honored the legacy of not just, like, the series itself, but also the legacy of these characters, especially when the design of the characters to begin with have been heavily inspired by the artwork of Carl Barks. But also, they would go and put in a new twist that feels fresh, new, and also very much engaging. And a very strong point to this, like, to really prove about what I'm talking about, is if you would go and take a look at Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Now, these were characters that were created ever since, like, Walt Disney was making Donald Duck cartoons. Like, these are characters that already established who they are in the Disney world. And I'm just going to say right now, like, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, how they were back in the old Donald Duck cartoons, are much more different than what we would get in the 2017 DuckTales reboot. In fact, Huey, Dewey, and Louie have never experienced such a massive change since Quacked. And yet, even though they're nothing like the Huey, Dewey, and Louie we knew from either the original DuckTales series or from the original cartoons, they feel like great characters, and especially when they would go and really expand upon them individually to make them stand out, because that is kind of the one problem with Huey, Dewey, and Louie back then, is just like, even like in the original DuckTales series, like they all feel kind of like the same character, but the only thing that would really differentiate them is just what they're wearing. It's like one is red, one is blue, and one is green. But now with this one, like now there is a massive difference. Now you can actually really differentiate whom Huey, Dewey, and Louie are, and especially with new voices as well. That they're going a little bit different than the Russi Taylor style quacking. That, like, yeah, some people could say like they don't sound kids and they sound more like grown men, but still, like, they are legitimate. Like they are completely different, yet they are still the characters that people knew and love, upon, and especially upon expanding more of who they are, more so than like anything Huey, Dewey, and Louie have been in the past, especially when really going in depth with their mother. And keep in mind, that's just one example of how they would really reboot these characters. And this is not to mention some of the other legacy characters that were featured as well, especially with Scrooge. And probably one thing that I will say about this DuckTales reboot is that if there's one thing that is very much important, like one of the most important things of what this DuckTales reboot has done, more so than to just reboot the DuckTales series, is that this is meant to go and establish the future of Scrooge McDuck and other legacy characters like Magica De Spell outside of their original voice actors. Because you guys probably know, before this reboot series came in, a lot of the voice actors have unfortunately passed away, like Alan Young, who had played Scrooge since the very beginning, had died. And then you also got June Foray, who was the voice of Magica De Spell, unfortunately passed away as well before this series would come in. And in here, like, we got some new replacements, including David Tennant now being the new voice of Scrooge. And this series in particular is meant to make a statement to say that Scrooge is going to be okay, and he will still have a prominent future in the Disney world, in the Disney legacy, without Alan Young. That they could still move forward, and they could still present some great ideas, even without Alan Young. Like, I mean, this is not to disregard what Alan Young has done way back when, but the thing with Scrooge McDuck is, like, yeah, we will forever love Alan Young with his version of Scrooge, whether it be with the original DuckTales or with Mickey's Christmas Carol, but at least we can move forward with with new versions of Scrooge, especially like with what David Tennant has done. Like, he has provided some great performances in the show. And following afterwards, one thing that I will say that is actually such an amazing feat with what this DuckTales reboot has done is that it is not just a reboot of DuckTales, but this felt more like an entire reboot like, this is a series that completely reboots most of Disney Afternoon, and really bringing back a lot of those classic characters onto the show. And the amazing thing is that even though they would bring in all these different series, they managed to fit them all together in a way that feels like they all belong in the same universe, telling the exact same story. Like, I do have this poster here. Like, if we can get a better look at this. Like, you guys may remember the poster that was released, like, to make a preview for Season 3 that features all the characters in a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate style kind of thing. Like, you got a whole bunch of, like, familiar faces that are here. Not just, like, with the DuckTales characters, but, like, you also got characters that came, like, you got the genie that came from the movie. Like, you got the Tailspin characters that are on top. You got Goofy from Goof Troop. Like, you also got Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Like you got all those characters returning, and not just them, but you also have legacy characters, like even more legacy characters that would come in and add more into it, whether they be from the comics or from the past cartoons or even from previous movies. Like, you got Ludwig von Drake that also appeared in here. You got the Three Caballeros. You got Daisy coming in. And this is not even to mention the ways that they would even update. Like, if there is also another character that they really played a lot with, it's also with Donald as well. Where, like, yeah, like usually Disney would always portray him as like the signature hothead, but they really expanded upon Donald's character here, and especially even like bringing in that new voice where like he suddenly sounds a lot more clear and doesn't have like that signature quacking voice and sounds completely different. So really, this is a series that has taken a lot of risk, and not only that, but like even a lot of them have like brand new styles to them that they look completely different than how they were back in like the 1990s or the late 1980s, especially like with some of the characters from Tailspin or even with Darkwing Duck as well. Like, I know they did a massive update on the design of Gosselin here, but still, they managed to pull it off, and even pull it off in a way that feels both fresh and nostalgic, where the fans actually highly do enjoy it. So from here, it really is, I would even say that it's kind of admirable the way that they actually pulled all this off, where they feel pretty much all connected together, where it feels enjoyable and really pushing new boundaries, not just for the series, but for Disney television animation as well. So I would honestly say overall, the thing is, like, this is a comment that a lot of people have done when it comes to this DuckTales reboot in particular, but a lot of people have stated that the 2017 DuckTales reboot did set a gold standard when it comes to television animation reboots. That if there are companies out there, or if there are studios that want to revive an old animated series from like 20 or 30 years ago, they would have to try to do something like DuckTales. And for Disney, they really paid, like, this one really paid off very well to show that there is a massive newfound interest, both with new audiences and with older audiences, to bring back these older characters. In fact, that's kind of what Disney is doing, considering that they have announced recently that they are going to go and reboot Darkwing Duck, that there is going to be a brand new Darkwing Duck series that's going to be coming to Disney Plus. And they've already established so much about how they can really bring back Drake Millard and all those characters, like how to bring, like, even with the villains, how to bring all of them together to the new generation, how they would bring them back. So like, at least we know that this is not going to be the last time that we are going to see these classic characters in a brand new form, with more brand new episodes. And yeah, I would say it very, like I said before, it very much is admirable what this DuckTales reboot has done. And I mean, yeah, there is some sadness that it will have to go, but then again, I will say that it is for the best. It's better for a TV show to actually have a proper ending than to let it drag on like either SpongeBob or The Simpsons, where like it's just way too tiring right now, to the point that it makes it hard to really enjoy it, because you know that many years ago it already lost some steam. So I would much rather have a show that would have a proper conclusion than something like The Simpsons or SpongeBob. You know, like have something like in the veins of Gravity Falls or Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it looks like this DuckTales reboot series might go into the same ranks as them as well, considering, or at least considering how fans are reacting to this DuckTales reboot. So yeah, there, like, in a way, I would say it is it's gonna be bittersweet, and I can imagine that they will have an epic finale coming up, and especially with the fact that they have established all these all these different characters like appearing throughout the season and maybe throughout the series. Like, I can imagine that they will provide some kind of like endgame style finale that will make all this worth it. So yeah, like I said before, it's gonna be sad to see it go, but like we will remember the fond memories that this series has provided for millions of fans around the world. So With that said, right now, I would like to go into the chat wall. And now I would like to go and ask you all, how do you feel about the DuckTales reboot ending? If you are a fan, especially, I would like to know your thoughts about this whole bit of news. And what do you think overall about the DuckTales reboot series, or how it's going so far? Have you been enjoying it? Do you feel disappointed? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Let's see. DuckTales, one of my favorite animated series. I personally have a soft spot for this show. I wasn't around during the original, but I still love the characters, stories, and adventures. Anyways, I am a bit outraged, and I can honestly say that I never expected this to happen. I just hope Disney puts the remaining episodes on Disney Plus, but I guess I should have expected it because of the ratings. What I'm saying is that DuckTales will always live on, ish. Yeah, exactly. It will always live on. And even without like any of the original actors and stuff like that, that's the one thing that this reboot has proved, is that like these characters and like the series in general will live on. And yeah, like I can understand the outrage is going to be done, but at this point, like we'll just it'll be sad to see it go, but like right now, like you still have a few more episodes of season 3, so enjoy them while you can. my best recommendation. All right, let's see. As a DuckTales fan, I am disappointed that the creators and Disney decided to end the series off with season 3. I grew up with the original show as a kid, and I was hesitant at first with the 2017 reboot due to bad experiences with recent cartoon reboots, but I eventually love it after watching the pilot. This is the best cartoon rebooted show out there, and it's sad that they decided to end off with this season, surprisingly. I hope they end off on a high note when I watch the finale. Yeah, I can imagine, but just out of curiosity, like for those of you who are like, even if they stated that they purposefully made season 3 as the grand finale, I would like to know like your outrage. Like, why are you upset that the DuckTales reboot is coming to a close? Is it because like you want more episodes? Was there something that you were hoping to see but won't get the chance to? Like that could be something you could add as well to why you are upset about it. So that would be interesting to know. And it could be therapeutic as well, like to let out any frustrations that you have inside. You know, it's better to let it all out than to just hold it in and just like let that anger simmer, if you know what I mean. Let's see now. While I am disappointed that the DuckTales reboot is canceled, considering it is the gold standard of animated reboots, it doesn't matter because some of the best series out there only have a few seasons, and I think the biggest issue is that it was put on Disney XD, which people consider it the dumping ground of Disney animated series ever since Gravity Falls ended. So overall, I hope it gets a great conclusion, and I can't wait to see how this entire story ends. And yeah, that is also another factor that a lot of people have mentioned of what could have caused the downfall of this series in particular. And this is not just Disney doing this, but other companies have done that as well. Like, for example, with Warner Brothers or with Cartoon Network. Whenever they would go and have a show that they would keep on going on for a while, then suddenly they would go and dump it onto Boomerang, whether it be on the channel or on the app. At that point, that was the signal that the show is not going well and it was just gonna die off soon. And that's another reason why a lot of people do believe that the show might have been canceled. It was mainly due to the fact that that Disney moved the DuckTales reboot onto Disney XD, which for Disney, that is considered the dumping ground of TV shows that are not usually going well, and that's where a lot of series would end off dying. So a lot of people might think it is because of that decision, that change, that movement would have caused the downfall of it. Now, there is technically no confirmation about it, but considering how the industry usually goes, it is strong evidence that it could lead that it might be more because it's a cancellation more so than it is a choice by the showrunners. So there is that possibility. Let's see what else we got here in terms of comments. Where can we go? Oh, hold on a sec. Oh, okay, there we go. The reboot of DuckTales, in a way, felt like a spiritual successor to Gravity Falls, despite having one thing the latter didn't have: dud episodes. But even then, the duds were few and far in between, and the show had me hooked with every new mystery solved. So it'll be pretty sad to see it go. So with that, Godspeed DuckTales reboot. Huh? Oh, that's weird. Usually there's some sort of crash before my comment and oh no, the ground! Oh boy, are we really gonna make a running gag of that whole thing? Oh, like, yeah, usually the next story would include oh no, the ground! Alright, anyways. Let's see now. Before we got word from the creators, the initial overreaction to the rumor show just shows how much of a grifter users like Clownfish TV can truly be. I applaud DuckTales ending before it would deteriorate, similar to Star versus the Forces of Evil. Regardless, it would not change just how poorly Disney has handled most of their modern cartoons before. Wander and Milo Murphy, anyone? Yeah, that is true. That is true, and that's probably the biggest criticism that many people like this comment has regarding Disney when it comes to their animated series. Now, the TV shows themselves are highly beloved, like Wander or Milo Murphy's Law, Phineas and Ferb, the DuckTales reboot, Star versus the Forces of Evil, and stuff like that. They're all really beloved. It's just how they've been handling them is the problem. How they would go and distribute them onto the channel, how they don't necessarily last long. Like some of them would somehow end abruptly. Like there are a lot of these issues that people do have. So if there is a problem with the Disney series, it's really with how Disney would go and maintain them more so than how they are actually crafted, which honestly is too bad because a lot of these shows are highly beloved. And when it comes to like how Disney is currently doing with their animated series, or at least with the kinds of shows that they are bringing out, like they have surprisingly gone top notch. Like they have really gone up to the levels around like with Nickelodeon, or like even surpassing Nickelodeon, and with Cartoon Network. So they have been doing a great job. All right, I think I'll go and read one more comment before we go into the next story. So let's see here. Just couldn't believe it myself. They made me disappointed, but not surprised. Anyways, I hope to see what will become an up-and-coming Darkwing Duck. Hope it comes on to Disney Plus. It is the legacy this show will leave behind. I don't feel sad because it's over. I'm happy because it happened at all. And you know what? That's actually a pretty positive way of going into this. And by the way, I just want to confirm, yes, the Darkwing Duck reboot will be on Disney Plus. And I will say, I think that that's probably the best way to describe this whole situation. That even though like the internet will be the internet, and they'd rather have their negative emotions than the positive ones, but I think this comment here says it best. That it's more important to be happy that this even happened at all than to be disappointed that there isn't more of it. At least be grateful that like you did have a DuckTales reboot and it did come out as strong as it actually is. So honestly, I wish the best of luck for the show creators and the whole crew, the whole cast and crew for the rest of the episodes of the DuckTales reboot, and I wish the best of luck for the future of Matt Youngberg and Francisco Angola. So let's see what the future holds for DuckTales. Okay, now the next story that I have here is something that I just want to say to just, you better brace yourselves. This is going to be something that maybe at the start of 2021, there is a possibility we might see a certain anime really explode into popularity, that a lot of people will be talking about it, and this is especially when it comes to the fact that right now in Japan, it really is breaking records. And what I'm talking about is going to be Demon Slayer. Yes, it has been reported that this week at the Japanese box office, Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train, has officially surpassed Titanic in order to become the number 2 highest grossing feature in Japan. Specifically, let me go and read you a little bit from my source here on Variety, where it states here, based on a hit comic by Gotoge Koyoharu that has sold more than 100 million copies in all formats, including digital, the film has earned $264 million from 20.5 million admissions as of November 29th, some 45 days since its opening on October 16th. And also, just want to quickly mention that so far, its rise in popularity in Japan has been pretty stagnant, especially the fact that it's just now, week after week, it has been breaking records. It even stated here, last week, Demon Slayer moved into the number 3 spot past Frozen, which earned $245 million in 2014, and the Shinkai Makoto anime Your Name, which grossed $240 in 2016, which, by the way, the figures have not been adjusted for inflation or currency movement. Demon Slayer needed only 15 days following its release to reach the 10 billion yen mark, or $96 million milestone, compared to 25 days for Spirited Away. And they actually do state that right now, when it comes to how Demon Slayer is doing compared to Spirited Away, it's actually going to be very close. And there is a possibility that by the end of the year, we could actually see Demon Slayer become the latest highest grossing movie in Japan. Like, not just highest grossing Japanese animated feature, but the highest grossing movie in Japan, period, breaking the records of Spirited Away and Your Name. There is that high possibility. Now, the reason why I want to go and mention this is mainly because, as I said before, this is something that you should probably brace yourself at the start of 2021, especially the fact when it does mention that it will be coming to North America and possibly in the West, like in the rest of the West as well, in early 2021, thanks to Aniplex of America and Funimation. Now, we already know that Demon Slayer is currently one of the more popular animes that's been going around. Like, already, its popularity, it's not among, like, the really big ones, like One Piece or Dragon Ball or Naruto and stuff like that, but it is, Demon Slayer is a series that a lot of anime fans are very much familiar with, and it does have some iconography, like some easily recognizable iconography that makes you say, oh, I know this thing because, like, it has often been passed around in in the anime community before. Like, one great example, I forgot the name of the character, but you have probably seen around anime circles where there is this, like, really buff guy, like, he's completely shirtless, like, has, like, these ripping abs with, like, holding dueling katana swords, and has, this head of a boar, that he has, like, the head of, like, this, pinkish grayish wild boar. Is probably a mask, but like, you probably have seen that iconography of the pig head guy holding 2 swords and has, like, ripping abs. Like, Inosuke. People are mentioning Inosuke, so chances are you probably have seen Inosuke going around on social media. And that's pretty much where he came from. It's from Demon Slayer. So already it is a popular series as it is. But seeing the popularity of the movie itself being highly popular in Japan right now, even to the point of breaking records, I think we're going to see a massive boost in its fame, like, when it will come to America. And the reason why I do state this is mainly because of some of the recent trends that we have seen, especially considering that this is exactly what happened with Your Name, where it started out in Japan, where it really rose to popularity, where it got a lot of attention in Japan, where it broke records, even breaking some of the records of Spirited Away. And then following afterwards, when it came to America, it was like one of the biggest animes. It was like one of the most talked about animated features, period, during that time specifically. Even to the point where there were a lot of people that were debating rather if Your Name would even get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature. And even Hollywood is starting to immediately recognize the popularity of Your Name, even to the point where now they're even considering doing a live-action movie, like make a Hollywood blockbuster feature film with a bunch of A-list celebrities that are already attached to this project in particular. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised once Demon Slayer the movie does come to America and in the West as well. This is going to be a massive movie that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Like, a lot of people, especially when it comes to Demon Slayer, there already is a prominent fan base in the West. And then, when the movie is going to come in, I'm sure this is going to be one of those things that it's going to be massively talked about across the internet, like, not just within the anime community, but even outside of the anime community, where even non-fans are going to get curious and they will go and check it out, and maybe might become Demon Slayer fans from there. I'm just giving out a warning that this could end up becoming the next Your Name. Because, as I said before, we have already seen a strong chance that this could surpass the record that has been established by Spirited Away, and it could become the highest grossing Japanese animated feature of all time. And by the time it will come into the West, then its popularity will grow massively bigger, where it will get a lot more attention, not just because of the fact that it's Demon Slayer, but because it has been breaking all these records in Japan, and might possibly do the same when it comes to America, where it will get a lot of people curious to know what this is all about, to know what Demon Slayer is about, to know what the movie is going, like, what is with this fun, like, it might even grow like a newfound phenomenon that could be happening. Who knows? But ultimately, I feel like this is just a scenario that we will have to wait and see. Again, it won't be until 2021 until this thing does come to the West, and so far it is currently going to be breaking records. But again, I just wanted to cover this because I want to give you all a bit of a warning to go and brace yourselves in case things really do get big with Demon Slayer. So just be prepared for that. I know technically there isn't a whole lot to talk about with this story, but I will say that, you know, it does feel a bit refreshing that after throughout this year, I think this is the first time in like literally months that I even talked about a story related to the box office. I mean, especially with the pandemic and the way that it closed the grand majority of movie theaters all around the world, it's honestly kind of funny with the way that like now I actually do have a chance to talk about the box office, and it's not even like any of the domestic box offices or anything like that. It's just like the one in Japan. So who knows, maybe I will go and talk about it a bit more in the future when things do get better with the pandemic, but we'll see. But I will say it's kind of funny that like it's the first time in such a long time that I even mentioned the box office in this podcast. Okay, so with that said now, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about this news with Demon Slayer? If you are familiar with the series, how do you feel? I would like to know the most from your opinion about this. Are you anticipating to go and check out Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train? And do you think that this movie might end up becoming the next Your Name, where it will be the next big Japan phenomenon that will hit the West? Let me know what you think on that. Okay, let's see now. This movie looks interesting. I wonder if the movie breaks records in the global box office that is outside Japan and possibly overtaking Disney's records, and it could get away for, it could be a gateway for other anime to possibly become a huge genre in the world of cinema. I don't think so. I don't think this is gonna be the kind that would break records. Like one thing, yes, like currently right now, Demon Slayer is breaking records in Japan, but I'm not gonna be expecting this to break like worldwide records. This ain't gonna beat like the records from Frozen. Yes, it did break Frozen's record in Japan, but in the rest of the world, like making over $1 billion, I think that is nothing more but a fantasy. I think that's going to take many more years until we could actually see that point that a Japanese animated feature could even make $1 billion in the worldwide box office. I think that's a little bit too extreme. Yes, it's doing very well in its native country, but will it resonate with the rest of the world, like in that particular way, like a superhero movie could? That I would highly doubt it. You know, like, yeah, it's big, but it ain't gonna be Disney big. Okay, let's see now. Oh, we got a fan. Okay, let's see here. Demon Slayer is an incredible anime so far, and I am excited for the Infinite Train movie. Or you mean the Mugen Train. Amazing animation and strong characters is very exciting. It could beat Your Name, which is overrated, honestly. And controversially, I would say that, yeah, I am on that camp that does feel like Your Name is pretty overrated, honestly. Not to say it's not a bad movie. It is a very well put, good movie, but not the kind that deserves to be like that much of a massive phenomenon that could even surpass the records of Spirited Away. It doesn't deserve that much. Anyways, let's see now. Hot damn, I know that Demon Slayer is popular, but I wasn't expecting it to be this big in the box office. I haven't seen the whole series, but I can tell that this is an amazing show, especially with the incredible animation. Now, if you excuse me, I got to watch the rest of the anime. Yeah, I mean, like, if you've been watching some episodes, then you really gotta go and catch up. Like, if you really want to anticipate yourself for Mugen Train, then yeah, you better be up to date with what they could say. Like, that's one thing that I am curious about, though, considering that it is based on a series and that it is based on a manga. I wonder how this movie will be with newcomers. Is it going to be something that will leave newcomers completely lost, or is it going to be something that could actually be welcoming to newcomers and that they could actually understand the concepts once they do come in? That I don't know, but we will see with how they will go with this one. Let's see now. I say congrats to Demon Slayer's box office, as it is almost about to break Spirited Away's record, since it will almost be 20 years since the film came out in 2001 in Japan. Heck, most of the successful animes are often released by Toho, who are known for Godzilla, and I bet the next successful anime film will be Hideaki Anno's Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time in 2021 soon. That could be a possibility, but who knows? Let's see. Do we have any other comments that we have here? All right, I think, yeah, I'll just go and read one more before we jump into the next one. I've never been too big of an anime fan, only ever being familiar with Studio Ghibli films and Cory in the House, but I am pretty intrigued. Well, I mean, to be fair, dude, I could definitely tell that even with that limited amount of anime you have seen, you are still a man of culture. Anyways, I'm not familiar with the Demon Slayer franchise, but should it ever reach my local theater, I'll probably check it out to see if the records broken are earned. But mostly because I'm starving for a theatrical experience. Like, I don't care if all they're showing is cats. I'll gladly check it out. Oh my god, dude. I'm just saying, not now, but a little bit later, we will be talking so much about that. Just brace yourself for that. Like, I know I said to brace yourself in 2021 for when Demon Slayer might become the next big anime phenomenon, but for this episode in particular, I'm just going to say brace yourself for an even bigger story that's going to be coming up related to what you've just mentioned. Okay. Moving on to the next story that we have here. Now, this is going to be a bit of a bonus miscellaneous, but it is actually going to be related to a few names that a lot of people are going to be very familiar with. And it's going to be related to a musical that's going to be coming up that has definitely caught my intrigue, not just because of who's going to be involved, but even related to the subject matter. And I will say, it's going to be quite fascinating and quite intriguing to see how they will be adapting this on stage. And what I'm going to be talking about will be a possible Broadway adaptation of Animal Farm. Yes, apparently they are going to be indeed doing... Oh, excuse me, people. As I was saying... yes, there will indeed be a musical adaptation that will be coming soon based on the George Orwell classic book Animal Farm. And the music will actually be provided by none other than Alan Menken and Glenn Slater. And as you guys probably know, like if you are a Disney fan, then you are totally familiar with the works of Alan Menken. But when it comes to Alan Menken and Glenn Slater working together, they have definitely collaborated on a lot of major projects, not just with Disney, but even on the stage as well. Alan Menken and Glenn Slater, they started collaborating together for the music and the songs of Home on the Range, but then later on they would go and work on some musicals, including the Sister Act musical, and even helping out working on some additional songs for the Broadway adaptation of Disney's The Little Mermaid. And then, of course, following afterwards, they would work on several different projects, and probably their most notable ones, like the most notable one with Alan Menken and Glenn Slater has to be the music and the songs of Tangled, both for the movie and even a little bit for the animated series as well. And to go and read you a little bit from my source here on Broadway World, it states, a workshop on the new musical is set for this spring. There is no director currently attached to the project. Adam Spiegel Productions will produce. And they even mention as well that, along with Menken and Slater, that they also have James Graham, who is going to be working on the musical as well. Which, by the way, James Graham is a playwright. And by the way, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with Animal Farm, basically the short summary of it all is that it is renowned as a satire on communism, or at least the rise of communism and some of the serious flaws that come with the ideology and when putting that regime into practice. Especially when they would take a bunch of farm animals and interpret them as figures such as Stalin and Lenin and all those communist people. Just to read again, like a little bit of a summary, in case you don't know Animal Farm, it says here... George Orwell's dystopian parable tells the rebellion of the animals of Manor Farm against the cruel farmer Mr. Jones. A new order is established, a perfect society where all animals are equal, but gradually unease and fear take hold as the leader Napoleon and his class of pigs become rulers of the farm and set about destroying their rivals. Animal Farm is the story of how revolution goes wrong and how the genuine need of change becomes a ruthless political class. So yeah, like when it comes to classic literature, you cannot get any more political than Animal Farm. Or maybe you can, but there are different maybe there are, but at least in terms of some of the very well-known ones, you can't go more political than Animal Farm. And I'm just going to go and state this right now. Honestly, I am a huge fan of Animal Farm. I would even go and say that it's one of my favorite novels, period. And the funny thing about Animal Farm, I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but the way that I discovered it is actually I was assigned to read it in school. Like, I don't know, like, maybe this has happened to you or maybe it hasn't, but it's one of those books that, like, the teacher asks you to go and read it, but then suddenly you find yourself, like, actually very much invested in it, and, like, you really got into the story just really reading about what has happened in the story. Like, it really, like, honestly, I don't know what it is about the story, but it really got me into it. It was very fascinating to check out. And probably you may remember a few years ago that I even did a review of the movie, or at least the review of the first British narrative animated feature, which is actually an adaptation of Animal Farm. In fact, I actually do have the DVD. Hold on a sec. Yeah, right here. This version of Animal Farm. I believe they mentioned when this was actually made. Yeah, like back in 1954. So back in the mid 50s. Yeah, and even this I forgot to mention, like, even this this DVD actually marks the 50th anniversary of it. So yeah, no, absolutely. Like, this is 1954 that they made this movie, and it is an amazing movie. I highly recommend that you go and check this one out. So yeah, I can pretty much safely say that I am definitely a fan of Animal Farm. And I mean, it comes to no surprise that there have been so many different adaptations of Animal Farm ever since. Not just with that animated feature, but also, like, so many different movies, so many different TV specials, like, maybe, like, different parodies as well. Like, a lot of people are very much familiar with Animal Farm in one way or another. But what seems to be very fascinating is how are they going to do it with a stage adaptation of Animal Farm? I mean, it's honestly one of those things that I feel like it's kind of surprising, but it shouldn't be at the same time. With such a well-known story like Animal Farm, chances are people will go and interpret that to the stage as well. And I was, and honestly, it made me think, like, how the fridge could you take something like Animal Farm and you put that onto the stage? Well, like, how can you make songs for it? And it's kind of weird, mainly because of the fact that technically this is a story where the stars, or like the grand majority of all the characters in there, are animals. Like, you only have one human being in there, and that is the drunk farmer, Mr. Jones. And that's it. The rest are nothing but animals. So how the fridge can you go and interpret it that way? And usually with like big budgeted stage musicals and stuff like that, they would find ways to go and be creative about it. I know a lot of people could say it's just like you randomly just put on animal costumes and you just go from there. And so I try to look it up a little bit to see, like, how it would look like. And yeah, there are some that I've literally seen is just that. And I saw, like, there are some that it's literally just people putting, like they would actually put, like, those, like fake noses, like that. Like, I saw a lot of people putting on, like, like the pig nose that they would put on their faces, like, for Halloween and stuff like that. There are those costumes, but one that I will say is kind of an interesting interpretation. I found this little trailer, so how about we go and check this out? Like, just take a look at this version that I found. Like, let's see, you'll get what I mean. Okay, so I know that if you're only listening to this in audio form, I know it's just weird, like, you don't understand what's even going on, because, like, you're just hearing that little tune right there, but this is basically the trailer for the Soul Keeper Theater Company production of Animal Farm that they have done back in 2018, and this was apparently a show that they have done in Toronto. And with this version, I gotta say, like, there are a lot of notable things that are just absolutely weird. Like, I think the one weird thing that does stand out is that it feels like it tries to be oddly comedic. It's like, maybe they did this on purpose and, like, they're being self-aware that they're just people in, like, animal costumes and stuff like that. Like, probably the weirdest moment is, like, it's this right here. It's with the freaking chicken. It's like, you got one chicken that's holding another chicken, like, showing off their butt, and it's, like, through, like, with the chicken that's being held onto, like, between their legs, they're just throwing eggs. Like, this little moment right here. Like, literally just throwing, it's like, I look at this and it's like, what the fridge are you even doing? Like, okay, like, at that point, you're just making a flat-out comedy. And, like, I'll just say right now, like, I know it sounds weird to say that Animal Farm would be a comedy, and I mean, like, yeah, maybe some people could say there might be some comedic moments, but for the most part, it's not. It is, like, a heavy, serious story that can really get dark, and I mean, I especially do mean, like, it's the kind where, like, freaking murder can be involved, or at least a lot of significant characters do actually die. And the thing, oh yeah, and then a lot of people are even mentioning, like, right after the chicken, like, there's at one point, like, you got the macho donkey. Yeah, they're probably putting in some dance numbers and stuff like that. But even, like, the costumes as well feel a little bit weird. Like, I get, like, they have to try to find unique ways. Like, the donkey, for example, like, the costume that they have is, like, technically put in donkey ears and the donkey mane onto a bowler hat and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I can see a little bit of creativity there. But then there's also one point, like, you got the one pig, like, this one dude wearing, like, a whole, like, pig costume, like, a whole pig mask, more so than just, like, just wearing a fake snout and stuff like that. It's like, there are some things where they go is just weird. And especially, like, another thing that seems a little bit strange is like, going back, it's like the freaking chickens. Like, you look at all the chickens, and somehow, I don't know, the way they are dressed up, they feel more like they're doing some kind of stage adaptation of Chicken Run, more so than it is an adaptation of Animal Farm. There's just something about them that feels strange, especially, like, when their noses are literally the chicken beak. Like, they don't have mouths. They just have, like, just one, like, they just have, like, this beak that acts as their nose. It's not even a beak. It's just, honestly, it's just like, I don't know. We're seeing Miss Foul's family reunion here. It's like the teacher from Jimmy Neutron is having a Thanksgiving and everybody is just hyping up until, like, dinner is ready with their, like, corn-fed crap and stuff like that. So yeah, like I will say, at least with this interpretation, like, maybe it is good, but I will say it is kind of, like, it does seem like a very weird one. And going back to the one that I do want to talk about, the one that I did talk about in the very beginning, like, I don't know how they're going to go and pull this one off, but considering that they do have Alan Menken and Glenn Slater to be involved, it does seem like it's going to be a pretty big production. But it also raises the question, how the fridge is Alan Menken and Glenn Slater going to be making songs for Animal Farm? That is honestly going to be weird. And then, like, maybe technically it's because, like, I am a Disney fan, and I'm saying this as a Disney fan because that, like, Disney is what I'm most familiar with in terms of their works, with stuff like Tangled and the things they've done with the Little Mermaid Broadway musical and stuff like that. Like, I know they definitely do have the capabilities, and of course they can actually go and write some pretty serious songs, and probably the best example for that would actually be for the Tangled series, for Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. There are actually some pretty epic and serious songs that they have done in there, more so than even in the movie. So you could tell that they definitely do have a wide range in terms of their tone. But how they are gonna go and interpret songs for Animal Farm, like, honestly, that's gonna be weird. Like, that's one thing I will say. Like, even though, yes, I love the music of Alan Menken and Glenn Slater, I love Animal Farm, but when combining those two loves together, I don't know what the fridge is gonna be that result. Like, it's gonna be quite strange. But maybe it's just because of the fact that I'm not too familiar with how can you, like, it's not just with them though. It really is the question of how can you make Animal Farm a musical? Like, how can you take the format and take something that's as dark and serious as Animal Farm and you turn that into a musical with a wide range of different musical numbers that might be more comedic, that might be more sad, that might be more dark, or whatever. I don't know. Like, honestly, how this tone is going to be is it's going to be strange. I'll just say that now. It really is going to be a pretty strange musical that we are about to experience. There isn't going to be a whole lot, but I can definitely tell with what we have seen before with some of the other adaptations, or from what I've seen with what they have done with other stage adaptations of Animal Farm, it's gonna be weird. Like, I think it's gonna be something that will be completely strange at first, but then gradually, like, it'll be something that it can be, it's something to get used to. And I mean, maybe I am a bit over-exaggerating, considering that Broadway does have a history of telling these abstract stories and adapting them into the stage, especially when it stars animals. Like, we already know, like, some of the most popular Broadway musicals include Cats, which is a cast of, like, literally nothing but cats. And then, of course, you also have The Lion King. And if Broadway can successfully adapt something like the frickin' Lion King onto the stage, then maybe they could do something similar with Animal Farm. Who knows? It's gonna be weird, and I'm sure maybe they'll have to do some things in order to in order to update the format, and like, I got a feeling, like, if you are going to bring people on board like Alan Menken and Glenn Slater, it's not going to be a straightforward adaptation. I feel like you're going to take some creative liberties, or you're going to do some things in order to tell it in a more modern way. Like, how do you bring a story like Animal Farm and bring that to the modern world, especially after a post-Trump era? And that's going to be one thing that I will say, to not be surprised when you're going to go and see this musical. Like, I know technically Trump leans more into the fascism route than the communism route, but still, with the kind of totalitarianism regime that Napoleon ran in the books, maybe you will see some similar, you'll see some similarities between Trump and the regime of Napoleon. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a warning right now, if this musical is going towards that modernism route, in case. Who knows? But overall, this is going to be interesting, I'll say the least. I have no idea what they are going to do with the combination of Animal Farm and Alan Menken and Glenn Slater, but I mean, with the duo, they have proven they can make some very strong stuff, and maybe they'll do something very strong with this musical as well. Who knows? Okay, now with that said, though, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about this Animal Farm musical with music by Alan Menken and Glenn Slater? Do you think this is going to be a good idea? Do you think this is going to be too weird for the stage? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Let's see now. Well, that was unexpected, and this is coming from a part of the generation that's trying to adapt Ratatouille into a musical. I have a vague memory of Animal Farm, since when I watched it, I just saw as, oh, hey, some funny talking animals. Oh, good God! I'll keep my eye on it, but if the opening number isn't the Old MacDonald parody from the Animal Farm review, I'll be demanding a full refund. Yeah, that is true. Like, oh my God, I completely forgot the fact that I actually did do an Animal Farm song in my review, that I started off with that freaking old MacDonald song. Oh my God, that's like probably one of my biggest one of my biggest musical hits in terms of my YouTube career, actually. I completely forgot about that. Oh my God, imagine if they go and start off that Old MacDonald communism song. Oh my God, that would be off to a great start then. Okay, anyways, let's see here. Yes, I did read this book in my senior year in high school. We even watched the 1999 TV movie, and the only thing I can remember is Patrick Stewart as Napoleon. For a stage musical, it is very odd. Speaking of stage musicals, a bit off topic, after watching it yesterday, I saw Hamilton, and my gosh. Also, what's your favorite Hamilton song? Guaranteed you have no answer. Oh boy, often I flip-flop, actually. I mean, like I could say My Shot as my favorite, but I mean, like, a lot of people would just say that. But there is a whole lot. Like, My Shot is definitely up there. Probably some others. Like, I've been really into History Has Its Eye on You, even though that's, like, a small throwaway one. What Did I Miss is also a lot of fun. The Reynolds pamphlet is also great as well, since it is like the theme of the end of the Trump era. But there are definitely a lot of others that I really do like as well. But yeah, I know it's gonna be weird, but we will have to wait and see with what the result could be. Let's see now. To comment about how they will be making songs for the musical, we do already have a few anthems from the book. The most notable being Beasts of England, so they might try to make songs that will mostly consist of anthems. I don't really have anything else to say since I don't really have much interest in Animal Farm. That is actually true, actually. You do bring up a very strong point. And yet, how odd, considering that for someone who is not interested in Animal Farm, yet you remember something more than I do with an element like the Beasts of England. And that could be true, and that could be the direction that the music could actually go with. That it will heavily lean towards having this one central anthem for the animals. And this is going to be a song that you will keep on hearing again and again throughout the musical. Kind of like a central theme, and like you'll see it like go into a darker route or something like that. Like, that is a very strong possibility, and that could be the musical direction that they could go with. Something that leans more into a national anthem, and something that could lean more into like this dark tone that is based on that particular theme. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm surprised that a lot of people in the chat wall are not that much of a big fan of Animal Farm. I guess I'm like the only one here who loves the book. Alright, anyways, well, this is going to be interesting. As someone who has seen the Animal Farm animated movie and liked it, it could be interesting. I do hope when they do this, they go in the same direction as the SpongeBob Broadway show, where they make the characters more human-like. So overall, I'm curious how it turns out. And that's also another great example of how it could be surprising. Like technically, if they could go, like, not just with The Lion King, but if they could adapt frickin' SpongeBob to Broadway, then they could easily do Animal Farm no problem. Oh, this is going to be interesting. This is just a bad idea. Adding music to something that doesn't need music is just wrong, and it will work at the as a straight play, but not as a musical. I mean, whatever happened to Andy Serkis's PG-13 movie, motion movie, done from the creators of Planet of the Apes prequels? I could only see this going, oh, you mean the Tim Burton movie? Okay, I almost got confused there. Anyways, where am I? I could only see this going downhill more than the Catch Me If You Can, the musical. Oh, by the way, definitely check out the Animal Farm, the graphic novel. It has amazing artwork. I'll definitely keep an eye on that. Wait, is that true that they try to make a Catch Me If You Can musical? Like, I remember the I do remember the Catch Me If You Can movie with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, but I didn't know that they tried to make a musical out of it. Oh boy, but then again, like, trying to make a musical out of that, I don't really see that working. I mean, like, yeah, you could take some random movies like Legally Blonde and turn that into a musical, but Catch Me If You Can, I don't know, that seems weird. Alright, I'll read one more comment, and then we're gonna jump into the next story. Let's see now. There are currently 2 feature-length adaptations of Animal Farm, the aforementioned 1954 animated feature from Halas and Bachelor, and the 1999 live-action TV film from Hallmark Entertainment. Yeah, how ironic, frickin' Hallmark was the one who made an Animal Farm movie. Anyways, there was the AFR 3D version to be Oh, right, the motion capture one. The motion capture version to be directed by Andy Serkis that was announced back in 2012, but nothing happened to it since. Furthermore, I would think that the new musical adaptation to the George Orwell story could hopefully be better than Cats 2019. No, I think I can guarantee you that no matter what happens to this musical, it's going to be way better than Cats. Because already, Animal Farm has one thing over Cats the musical, and that is having a frickin' story. Alright, so our next story that we have over here, we're going to be talking about award season. And when it comes to award season, it's going to be happening much later. Like normally, at this point, we would go and start to hear about a lot of different nominations. Like at this point, we would have probably already known the nominations for stuff like the Annie Awards or the Golden Globes, or already hyping ourselves up of what would be nominated for the Oscars. But it ain't happening, considering that all of them have been delayed by a few more months. Mainly, of course, due to the pandemic. But when it comes to how things are going to be with the ceremonies themselves, that could actually be a bit of a different story. And that's well, you know what? I was about to say that is the case, but you know what? That might not be the case when it comes to the Oscars. Yes, apparently, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science is now debating about what they can do in order to keep the Oscars in person. That instead of doing like some kind of virtual award show where everybody is watching it at home and everybody is hosting it and presenting their awards and stuff like that through webcams and stuff like that, what they will do instead is that they will try to go and test out to see if they can keep the tradition of having it at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, just like they would with any other year. To read a little bit here from my source on Variety, it actually states, even if movie theaters stay closed, by holding the Oscars later in the spring, organizers are looking at how the event can continue as it always lived. There are still questions as to exactly how many people will be allowed inside the 3,400-seat Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, where the ceremony traditionally takes place. And that's also another thing I want to mention, considering I did state that technically all the award shows will be delayed by a few months. This is the same case with the Oscars, considering that they have announced that the Academy Awards, instead of being held usually around the end of February or in the beginning of March, or in some cases at the beginning of February, this right here, the Oscars for 2021, will be held on April 25th. So by that time, even in Canada, all the snow would be melted at that point. So it's not going to be around the winter time or at the beginning of spring. It's going to be like right dab in the middle of spring, which is probably the latest that the Oscars had ever been. Do we have any quotes here to go and read? Okay, well, not necessarily. Like, in the article here, they do mention that things will go technically differently with some of the award shows, and that they will indeed try to go and hold it in a virtual way, kind of like with what the Emmys did back in September, where you got the SAG Awards that will do things a little bit more differently. Or right now they are saying that they're going to be checking out their options. In fact, let me go and read my source here. It actually states, our submission period has just closed, but numbers are on par with previous years, and we are looking forward to a strong competition this award season. We are excited to honor this year's outstanding performances of both film and television in March, and like our colleagues at other award shows, we are working to create an entertaining and safe show for all our nominees. Okay, so they don't necessarily mention... okay, so... or do they mention... okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, well, okay, apparently the Critics' Choice Awards will try to do something, a little bit different. It even says, the Critics' Choice Awards, which has traditionally been one of the first television award shows, televised award shows actually are open to many different options. We know this show is happening, says Joey Berlin, the CEO and president of Critics' Choice Association. Ty Diggs will be on stage. There are 3 possibilities. It's the Emmys, it's like the Critics' Choice Awards last year, or it's a hybrid. It doesn't seem likely that on March 7th, most of our nominees and eventual winners are going to be happy to gather somewhere. So, basically, they're pretty much looking into their options, but when it comes to the Oscars, when it comes to what we are talking about here, it looks like they're going to be leaning more towards trying to find a way to have everyone together at the Dolby Theater. Now, of course, it's not going to be at the point where it's going to be jam-packed, but they will see if they will find a way to still keep the traditions of the Oscars as possible. And I'm just going to say right now, it's going to be interesting to see what they will try to do with the Oscars. And especially, like, I'm just going to say right now, normally I would be a bit hesitant with this decision. I don't know, like, honestly, I would not be on board if they just said that they're not going to do it virtually and they'll still gather everyone together crammed up in this one little room at the Dolby Theater. Normally, I would not be on board with it. But in this case here, it's going to be a little bit different, mainly because of the fact of the recent status of the pandemic, and especially with how close we currently are with the vaccine, especially when we do have companies such as Moderna and Pfizer, where they are actually very close to distributing their vaccines all around the world. So there is that possibility that we could be seeing that. And from there, it might not necessarily be as big of an issue. Oh, excuse me about that, people. Saliva went down the wrong hole, I swear. It's not what you think. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about, considering that we are going to be so close, it might not necessarily be as bad when the Oscars are going to be rolling around by April. Because at that point, if things actually do go well, if the best case scenario does occur that the vaccines are proven to be safe and that people are getting there is massive distribution and a lot of people are already getting it, then it might not necessarily be as bad. I'm not expecting everyone is going to be in that theater, especially when they have to be at a limited capacity, and I can imagine there are going to be a lot of people who would rather want to be safe than sorry. And I don't necessarily mean just wearing masks, but they are just going to go and stay at home. So I can imagine that they might actually do a hybrid if they really are that adamant to keep the Oscars as a live show. Then at that point, what I can imagine that they could do is that instead of just having it all live, then they will have to do a bit of a hybrid. That they want to respect people's wishes in order to go and keep some of this, keep them at home, and they'll have to accept their awards through live cam and stuff like that. But then at the same time, there might be some others as well that would be willing to go and actually go to the theater. There is that possibility, but I don't think things are going to fully go their way. And I can guarantee you that even if it's going to be on April 25th, this is going to be a completely different Oscars than what we are used to. It's already enough that it's already been delayed by a couple of months, or almost a couple of months. But on top of that, now we also have the factor that technically it would be at the point where the pandemic would still be there. And it's not necessarily that good of an idea to have this whole ceremony where everybody would just end up coming together. So chances are, the way that I imagine it, they'll have no choice but to do both. It's not going to go their way where they'll try to go and keep things as safe as possible. They will try to keep things safe. They'll keep people distance. They'll have people wear masks. In fact, in their little welcome gift, they'll have their gold-plated or gold-studded or even diamond freaking studded masks and stuff like that. There is still that possibility. But for now, with this, it honestly feels like they'll do the most they can, but they won't. There's still gonna be some things that they have to go and work around with, especially when it's going to be a ceremony that also heavily involves seniors. And that's going to be a key thing with the Oscars, is the fact that there will be a lot of people that will be over the age of 70, over the age of 80, people that are basically considered to be the most vulnerable when it comes to the pandemic. You're not going to, like, even if they would already have the vaccine at that time, they're not going to go and immediately take the risk of going into the theater and, like, just be at the Oscars. You know, it's going to be a little bit more different, and there's going to be a lot of people that will be significantly missing. In fact, I'm just going to state this right now. It's not just a prediction, but I am guaranteeing you, and maybe there is still that chance that I am wrong, but I feel like at this point, I feel like there is a very strong chance that not all the winners are going to be in the theater. We are actually going to be seeing some acceptance speeches that are going to be similar to this year's Emmys, where they will be giving their thanks in the safety of their own homes. So that's going to happen. I don't know what like the future at this point is going to be a little bit of a mystery. And even with this one, even with the Oscars, like, I don't know how things are going to be, like, in terms of the pandemic, if things are going to be much better, or even if at that point, like, everyone is going to be vaccinated. Like, okay, well, it's obvious that not everyone will be vaccinated by the time next year's Oscars will happen, or even, like, everyone who's going to be, like, presented at the Oscars and stuff. But I don't know. It's just, like, I feel like this is going to be a completely different Oscars than what we are used to, and especially one that might end up going a little bit more virtual, like, and especially the fact that in here, especially that in here, they did state that there is no confirmation that they will do live. It only says that they're going to do the best they can to see how it can actually work, because there is still that possibility that they might not even do it live at all. They might close down the Dolby Theater and just do a presentation just virtually, especially when you have to consider that it is California after all, and California is one of the hardest hit states in America right now. So there is still that massive factor that even at a place like Hollywood, it is still, like, highly dangerous to currently be. And even, like, when even when the vaccine comes, that doesn't mean the virus is going to be completely eradicated. It is still got, like, even at the time of the Oscars, California, and especially Hollywood, is still going to be a highly contaminated area. So not everyone will be there, and there, like, you still kind of have to brace yourself in case the Oscars might end up going virtual. So it is going to be it is going to be interesting to see how they'll do it, but I'm just going to say, even if they'll try to see if they can do it at the Dolby Theater, it's going to be much different than what we are used to. So, with that said now, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the Oscars choice to try to do it in person? Do you think it's actually going to happen? Do you think things will run a bit differently? I would like to know what you think, how the 2021 Oscars is going to go. I feel like that's going to be a pretty fascinating discussion here. Okay. Now, let's see. I'll go with this one. I've been watching the Academy Awards annually for almost a decade. In fact, I'm always the one in my family who watches the Oscars regularly. I never expected the ceremony to be pushed towards the spring season, but I understood why they made that decision. Now there's just one question. I'm just asking, what will happen to the Annie Awards next year? I'm guessing is that they're probably going to do the same thing. They're mostly going to go virtual. And especially, like, not necessarily because of the vaccine, like, not necessarily because of the pandemic, or partly because of the pandemic, but also, like, to keep the tradition of the fact that animators had been working at home, so why not hold the ceremony at their homes and just go full virtual? And to give you a little bit more context, like a lot of them have actually been delayed as well. It's not just the Oscars, but they even stated here that apparently the Golden Globes is going to be February 28th. Critics' Choice Awards is going to be March 7th. The SAG is going to be March 14th, and the BAFTA is going to be April 11th. So it's not just the Oscars, but the whole award season had been heavily pushed, like I said before. I think we actually did get a confirmation that the Annie Awards had been pushed as well, but I don't know when it's going to be coming out. I think it's going to be around, I think they're going to do it in March as well, if I can remember correctly. If you know the date, then you can write down in the chat wall, just to help me out. Let's see now. What do we got here? I'm not sure if the Oscars might do it in theaters due to a time like this, but we'll never know until a vaccine is developed. If they have to do it in the theater, they would have to sit in separate seats, wear masks, and stay 6 feet apart from each other. But you might be right if they are going to do a hybrid, but we'll never know until they announce it. And also heard that Pfizer has a strong 90% or 90-something% chance that the vaccine will be ready worldwide, but we will never know for sure. Yeah, I think it is both Pfizer and Moderna that they said that it's around 95 or like around 94 or 95% ready. And like some of them have already like agreed to do like a full-on distribution. In fact, I am aware that there are some countries right now that they are actually vaccinating the people right now. There is like mass vaccinations right now happening in like the UK and Germany, I believe. And like even in Canada right now, they are already promising that they will establish like they will be ordering vaccines before Christmas, and starting next month they're going to go and vaccinate like the people who need it the most, like the top priority people, which are like the seniors, the caretakers, the long-term health workers, and also the indigenous people. They're going to take priority. And for people like me who are like perfectly healthy, I'm not expecting it until like maybe in the summer or in the fall, but I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see now. I don't really know how they're going to handle the Oscars, but what I do know is that it'll be a really crazy show. With the shortage of films released this year, we could be staring down to the reality that films like Trolls World Tour and Sonic the Hedgehog could win an Oscar. And frankly, I don't know how to feel about that. I'm not sure how it'll go, but let me say, we're in for a crazy ride. I mean, I will say for Trolls World Tour, like, it's not that impossible, considering that you do forget that the first Trolls movie did get nominated for an Oscar. Like, you probably have forgotten that, what was it? The song Can't Stop the Feeling. That's technically a Trolls song, and it did get nominated for an Oscar. So, I mean, Trolls World Tour is not that impossible. Sonic the Hedgehog, though, I don't know, that's just a meme thing. I think, like, people are, like, joking around. I don't know if that's gonna be a legitimate thing. Like, at the most, maybe for, like, best visual effects or something like that, but I don't know. If Detective Pikachu cannot get a nomination, then I highly doubt Sonic would as well. Alright, so, let's see what else we got here. I think it's going to be an interesting idea. For me, personally, I think it would be better if they go full-on virtual. I actually do think if they do go forward with this, they would do something similar to what this year's Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, where it would be a combination of both pre-recorded footage and live footage. So overall, I do wish them the best of luck. Oh, that could actually be pretty interesting, honestly. That they would do like individual, like bring them individually at the Dolby Theater, but like just secluded and everything and pre-record it all. That would actually be a pretty fascinating idea. Like that could work out. Honestly, I forgot about the idea of like having it all be pre-recorded, but that could be something. I don't know. I feel like that could be a pretty legit idea. Let's see now. I really think they should stick with virtual meetings instead, just for safety for the people that might not get vaccinated. I know it sucks not to have it be in person, but they should just stick to virtual events for at least one time only. And I mean, most of these celebrities have already gotten used to it for now. I mean, like, if the Emmys ended up going full virtual, then it's not hard to imagine the Oscars also going full virtual. So there is that. Let's see now. I'm split on this. On one hand, nobody knows how the future will turn out. For all we know, cases could still be going strong in April. But given the best chance scenario, the Academy might pull this off. Maybe try and do something similar that late shows and Saturday Night Live have been performing live in the latter half of this year. But I won't hold my breath if it turns out being virtual. Yeah, you do bring up some solid points. It is true that technically, like, we still have some shows, like some late night shows and even Saturday Night Live still going on during this pandemic. So there is still that possibility. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we jump into the next story now. We'll have to see how the Oscar handles this. We know that 70% of movies we know that 70% of the movie still be choosing will be from the VOD service, and that 30% will be Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Netflix movies. They will be looking at, and so be cool to see what movies do you think would be nominated. Oh, who would be nominated? Well, you know, the funny thing is that you might be wrong on that. Like, I don't think the VOD services are going to be the ones that will get most of the nominations. From what I've heard, like, rumors have started to speculate that apparently this year, we could actually see Netflix actually breaking some records where this could be like possibly the year of Netflix where they end up getting the grand majority of nominations. There is still that possibility, but I could be wrong, but I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of the opposite, where I feel like we're going to see more nominations coming from the streaming service films more so than the ones that were intended for theaters or like the video on demand movies. So there is still that chance. But again, we will have to wait and see with how things can actually go with this. Alright folks, this is it! It is time for the grand finale, and I have saved the biggest entertainment news for last. This is one that may seem pretty tame, but the more you think about it, the bigger the impact will be, not just on that 1 year, but what it could mean for the rest of the decade and for the rest of our lives in terms of movie distribution and how we will be consuming our movies. Now, you might remember recently that they have done an announcement, or that Warner Brothers has done an announcement in particular, that for Wonder Woman 1984, not only will they be releasing it in theaters on Christmas Day, but at the same time, on the same day, they will also be releasing it on HBO Max for those people who don't have access to their movie theaters or are not comfortable yet to go to the movie theaters. Now, that's going to be a massive experiment, and we're not 100% sure how effective this could actually be. If it could actually really work out for Warner Brothers and that they could really capitalize on it, especially with such a highly anticipated feature like Wonder Woman 1984. However, it looks like HBO Max and Warner Brothers are very optimistic about that decision. So much so, in fact, that they are really banking it hard on the rest of their lineup for 2021. Yes, it has been announced by Warner Media that for all their movies that are going to be released in 2021, yes, including the big anticipated ones, they are going to go and release it simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max. And a lot of them are also their highly anticipated ones. Like, I do have a little list here of some of these movies, actually, that are going to be coming out. So, these include Denzel Washington's The Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, In the Heist, Space Jam: A New Legacy, The Suicide Squad, Reminiscent, Malignant, Dune, The Many Saints of Newark, King Richard, Cry Macho, and Matrix 4. All of these have now been selected and will now go be released both in theaters and on HBO Max. Now, I know there is that controversial decision as well that technically, just recently, they have announced they're going to be ending their free trial on HBO Max just before they would go and release Wonder Woman 1984, but that's kind of another story altogether. But that seems to be the major thing that they are going to go and try out when it comes to movie distribution. They'll try to do both at the same time. And for Warner Media, they feel like this is actually a decision that could actually be both very beneficial for not just Warner Media, but also for the audience and also for movie theaters. We got a couple of quotes here from the heads of Warner Media just to go and reassure that things will be all right with this experimentation. And that's also a major thing that they want to emphasize. It's just an experiment that they're just going to do throughout 2021 to see if things can actually work out. Let me go and read from a quote here, actually coming from the chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios and Network Group, Ann Sarnoff, in which she states here, "We're living in unprecedented times which call for creative studios, including this new initiative for the Warner Brothers Picture Group. No one wants to... for creative solutions. Sorry about that. No one wants film back on the big screen more than we do. We know new content is the lifeblood of theatrical exhibitions, but we have to balance this with the reality that most theaters in the US will likely operate at reduced capacity throughout 2021. With this unique one-year plan, we can support our partners in exhibition with a steady pipeline of world-class films, while also giving moviegoers who may not have access to theaters or aren't quite ready to go back to the movies the chance to see our amazing 2021 films. We see it as a win-win for film lovers and exhibitors, and we're extremely grateful to our filmmaking partners for working with us on this innovative response for these circumstances." We also got a little bit of a quote here coming from the chairman of Warner Brothers Picture Group, Toby Emmerich, in which he states, "This hybrid exhibition model enables us to best support our films, creative partners, and movie-going in general throughout 2021. We have a fantastic wide-range slate of titles from talented and visionary filmmakers next year, and we're excited to be able to get these movies in front of audiences around the world. And as always, we'll support all of our releases with innovative and robust marketing campaigns for their theatrical debuts, while highlighting this unique opportunity to see our films domestically via HBO Max as well." So that's pretty much the big thing that they are going with. It's the fact that they want to try to distribute it both on HBO Max and in theaters. But already it seems that movie theaters already seem to disagree with the fact that it could be beneficial for them. In fact, a lot of them seem to be rather upset. Like, you already got Cineworld that are already at Warner Brothers door going like, "Hey buddy, can we talk about this? Can we negotiate a little bit? I don't know about this idea." But then you also got AMC, in which they are massively upset with it. Like, immediately after it was revealed about this plan, they got pissed. Like, Adam Aron, the CEO and president of AMC Entertainment Theater chain, he spent no time to waste to go and respond to what they are doing right here, in which he actually states, "These coronavirus impacted times are uncharted waters for all of us, which is why AMC signed on to an HBO Max exception to customary practices for one film only, Wonder Woman 1984, being released by Warner Brothers at Christmas when the pandemic appears that will be at its height. However, Warner now hopes to do this for all their 2021 theatrical movies, despite the likelihood that with vaccines right around the corner, the theater business is expected to recover." Clearly, Warner Media's intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie studio division and that of its production partners and filmmakers to subsidize its HBO Max startup. As for AMC, we will do all in our power to ensure that Warner does not do so at our expense. We will aggressively pursue economic terms that preserve our business. We have already commenced an immediate and urgent dialogue with the leadership of Warner Brothers on this subject. So already, like not just AMC, but like other theater chains as well, they're all, like I said before, they're already at Warner's door going, yeah, buddy, we need to talk. So that seems to be the big thing going on with this. And a lot of people are just freaking out about the fact that now there is that option that we have. That with all these movies, they're pretty, like, we can either go and check them out on the big screen if we would even be able to in the first place. Like, I know if that things don't change in the future, then I certainly cannot, considering that my theaters are currently closed. Or you could just go and check it out at HBO Max. And for me personally, I did think about this a little bit. You know, I did try to think about what they would, you know, about like this idea and this whole plan of what they want to do with the Warner Brothers movies and have them both released in a streaming service and in theaters. And I feel like the more I think about it, the more I feel like it is actually a perfectly genius idea. I am honestly all on board with this. And honestly, it is actually because of, excuse me, it's like I mentioned before. It's the current status of the pandemic where it made me feel a bit more optimistic with how things can actually be in the future. Because think about it. Like I said before, we are already at the point where where we're getting very close to actually getting a vaccine, and worldwide distribution can actually start as early as either the end of this month or in the beginning of next year. Like immediately on January 2021, we'll see vaccines like popping out like crazy, whether it be from like Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson & Johnson or whatever. So at that point, it pretty much gives people the, like now we actually do have the option depending on how comfortable people can feel and if they would actually have the vaccine. Where if they do not have the vaccine, well then chances are they're really not that comfortable with going back to the movie theaters to go and watch whatever big movie that would be on. And at that point, they can actually have the option instead to just stay and check out HBO Max to go and check out, like, if Matrix 4 or Godzilla vs. Kong would be on. So they would have that in the meantime, so that they could still catch up with some of the latest big movies that would be released in 2021. So at least they'll have an opportunity that they could safely stay at home, you know, put their health first, and you know, not risk going out to the movie theaters and possibly catch it. They'll just go and just check it out at home while understanding like what are some of the biggest trends and why people are hyping out about some of the big stuff that's coming, like Space Jam: A New Legacy or The Suicide Squad or Matrix 4 or Godzilla vs. Kong and stuff like that. But then, at the same time, if people do end up getting the vaccine, then it pretty much gives them the option that they could prepare themselves to put themselves back to normal, because with the vaccine, they can feel confident that they won't catch the virus. And so from there, they can slowly establish themselves and bring back those old habits that they had before of just comfortably going back to the movie theater so they could experience the major movies on the big screen. They now actually have that option as well that they could go with. So you pretty much do get the best of both worlds in the situation, and it gives audiences a lot of time to really prepare themselves if they are ready to go back into being normal in a life that we don't necessarily have to wear masks and practice social distancing and stuff like that. And believe me, as much as I tell people to do so, even I'm I'm totally excited to go back to that kind of normal. However, the reality of the situation here is that this might not necessarily be the case, though. there is still that chance that like, honestly, we would still have to follow the rules, like, even long after the pandemic is over, and, like, even long after, like, everyone or, like, most people have been vaccinated. Because the thing is that there are some people who do argue that because of this decision, because there is now that option that you could just stay at home and watch the movies on HBO Max, this could be something that could end up causing the death of cinema. And if you are listening to this, and if you are watching this, I'm just going to say right now that one homework that I would like to ask you to do in order to get more of an understanding of the situation here is to go and check out Double Toasted's video of talking about this discussion here, about how HBO Max might have possibly killed cinema. And Corey and Chris have brought up some very strong points that if they would listen to me talking about this, that they would disagree with me, and that this could be something that this could potentially kill off cinema, because with the option that people are offered right now, watching the movies on HBO Max is much more beneficial than watching it on the big screen. And not only that, there is also that psychological process that goes into it, where if people because of 2020 and now with 2021, if people continuously go and consume their media through streaming services and video on demand, then they're going to end up making a habit out of it, and they would no longer be interested with watching any of the movies on the big screen. And that could possibly be the case with how HBO Max is doing their thing. And not only that, but the more you think about it, the more you realize it is much more financially wise to go and consume the movies on HBO Max than it is to go into theaters. Like, I've actually done the math on this. Like, really think about it. Now, I know that technically there's a list of like 17 movies here, but let's say that like Warner Brothers has like 20 movies, and that they would go and distribute it onto both HBO Max and in theaters. Let's say you want to go and watch all of those Warner Brothers movies on the big screen. So from there, the average ticket price would be around $12. Some say $15, some are a little less, like $10, but on average, for now, it's like around $12. And so, you gotta pay $12 for each of those 20 movies. And by doing the math, you've already spent $240 in that 1 year to watch those movies on the big screen. And this does not include the expenses of some of the additional things that you might buy along the way, including popcorn, soda, or maybe some little merch on the side. So you might end up spending like more than $300 or even $400 just by watching those movies by Warner Brothers on the big screen. But then, let's take a look at HBO Max. And what HBO Max is currently doing, like, let's say, I know some people might speculate that there could be the possibility that they might do, like, premium, like a premium access, kind of like what Disney Plus did with Mulan. But let's say, for example, like with HBO Max, we know that it's like $14.99 a month. So it's like $15 a month. And from there, that's all you have to pay in order to have access to those movies. So from there, the math is just 15 times 12, and all you spent was just $180. And so from there, like, on top of that, like, not only you would have that, but also, you have the benefits of the other stuff with HBO Max. Like, you have access to plenty of other content, and unlike the movies on the big screen, with that admission, like, if you would go and watch something on HBO Max, you can have the benefit of watching it again and again and again and again. You can't do the same thing with movies, because if you want to see something like The Suicide Squad again, that would be another $12 that you have to spend on a ticket. So it's a lot more financially it's a lot more financially wise to just watch all the content on HBO Max than it is to watch it on the big screen. So there is still that element that a lot of people might actually take. And then there is the factor of how people are comfortable with going to the big screen. That is another major factor, because I could say right now that a lot of people, in fact, I would even say the majority of people, are not yet ready to go back to the habit of watching a movie on the big screen. In fact, this week there has actually been a statistic that has proven that most people are not prepared. In fact, there's another article from Variety that it actually does state here. Here, this is the... this is a good, actually, this part actually as well is quite juicy. Just gotta read here. With coronavirus cases continuing to surge in the U.S., Deloitte Digital Media Trends 14th edition Fall Pulse survey asked consumers how they felt about attending a movie in a theater. Even if they had the option to do so, 71% of consumers said they would not be comfortable going to a theater within the next month. And just over half of that say they were unwilling to go see a movie in person in the next 6 months, per the study. Only 18% of U.S. consumers have attended a movie in theater since the COVID-19 pandemic began, according to the Deloitte survey. After the pandemic is over, it is unclear what role movie theaters will play in consumer entertainment or to what extent the existing system of releases will have been disrupted, Deloitte says in a report. There's a role for movie theaters, but maybe not the leading role. So, just to summarize, there is a study that has proven the majority of people are not yet ready to go back to seeing movies on the big screen. In fact, I would say nearly 40% are not ready to go and plan to watch a movie on the big screen anytime soon. And you gotta keep in mind with this pandemic, one major thing that I need to add about the pandemic is that once the vaccine is ready, once the vaccine is confirmed, and once it's ready for distribution, that doesn't mean that the pandemic is fully over. That doesn't mean that the coronavirus is dead. You gotta keep in mind that there's still gonna be a massively long lineup in order for people to have those vaccines, in order to go and have everyone vaccinated. That is going to take a long time. Trust me, I don't think everyone around the world is going to be vaccinated by the end of 2021. I think it's still gonna be going by 2022 or even in 2023 and stuff. It's still going to be a long time for people to go and get vaccinated. And most of the healthy people, they're not going to be vaccinated, and the grand majority of them are not going to be comfortable to go in a place like a movie theater just to go and watch a movie. So there is still that massive factor that they would have to hold on to. And on top of that, there is also the insane conspiracy theorists. You gotta keep in mind, when it comes to anti-maskers, the grand majority of them are also anti-vaxxers. So they are most likely not gonna go and vaccinate themselves when the vaccine is going to be available. They're just gonna believe in the delusional conspiracy theories vaccines causes autism and all that kind of bull crap. So they are willingly not gonna go and actually help themselves by being vaccinated. They're still gonna be ignorant. They're gonna still believe in their delusional fantasies. And from there, they're still gonna keep the virus spreading. And that's why some people even state that the coronavirus is still gonna be with us forever. That it's not gonna be an issue that will go away, and the best thing we can do is to just vaccinate ourselves. But we know that by vaccinating ourselves, that's the only way to really help our immune system to go and actually fight the virus. So that's one major thing that you got to keep in mind. In 2021, yes, the pandemic is still going to be happening, even with the vaccines that are still going to be being distributed and being given to people that absolutely do need it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that once you get the vaccine, people are going to be ready to go back into the theaters. Because again, there is still going to be the habit of it all. There's still going to be the habit that you still have to go out and wear a mask, that you still have to go and practice social distancing, that you still have to go and at every household and every area you go to, you got to go and get a hand sanitizer to go and clean your hands. There's still going to be all that happening. And from there, Like, it's not going to be immediate that we are going to see movie theaters immediately get back to normal. Like, one thing I will say, and this might sound a little bit mean, but honestly, with the comments that Adam Aaron has done, the only thing I could say to him is just shut the freaking hell up, dude. Because honestly, like, he's pretty much debating that, oh, well, the vaccines are going to be right around the corner. That means people are going to come back to the theaters. Okay, you vaccinated? All right, come on, chop chop. Let's go and check out a movie in theaters. That's not how it freaking works, dude. Not everyone is going to immediately jump to the big screen once this pandemic is over. That is not going to happen. And on top of that, the thing is that when, like, people keep on forgetting that when it comes to movie theaters, they are already, like, in a bad spot. They will forever have, like, the short end of the stick. So it's not like they could really have that much of a say in this matter. And trust me, I feel like in this scenario, there is going to be indeed a strong chance that we will see in the future that it's not just going to be Warner Brothers that will be doing this. I think, honestly, like, we already know, like, in a way, Disney is already doing it with Disney Plus, but in a more severe way, where they're only distributing their movies onto Disney Plus. Like, we've already seen them do it with stuff like Artemis Fowl, the Mulan remake, and Soul. But, like, honestly, it is going to be at the point where Disney might have to throw their hands and just give up and say, all right, screw it. We're just going to release Black Widow onto Disney Plus. Like that, like now as time is moving on and the more that we are seeing the pandemic being more and more serious, I think even with the vaccine, I think there is going to be a bit of an actual chance we will see Black Widow being released on Disney Plus, even if Disney has always stated that they've been so hesitant to do so. So that's one thing I just needed to highlight on that department. And pretty soon, who knows? We're going to see, we could actually see other studios do the same. I mean, technically, you got Universal with their own system that they are going on with that they have going on with theaters. Maybe Disney might go and do the same. You never know. Maybe with Paramount, they could also do the same thing as well. We will have to go and wait and see. But overall, yeah, this could be something that could this could legitimately be something that could reshape the way studios will be distributing their movies, and that they are becoming less and less dependent of movie theaters as much as, like, those chains are completely distraught about it. And honestly, I'm more on the side of Warner Brothers doing it. Yeah, as much as I do miss going to the movie theaters and I do miss, like getting some popcorn and watching something on the big screen, I think this is the best thing to do in terms of everyone's health and in terms of everyone's safety. Not to mention that it also does give them the option that eventually, if they do feel ready after they are vaccinated, then they can go back to the big screen and just watch their movies from there. I think that's going to be the big thing with HBO, with what Warner's is doing with HBO Max. And not to mention, I just would like to add as well that I've already seen a lot of people even commenting that that like one great benefit is that it actually does make it feel like the price for HBO Max actually feels worth it right now. The fact that HBO Max is one of the more expensive streaming services, now people feel like they are legitimately getting their money's worth with HBO Max, now that they would be able to actually have immediate access to movies like In the Heist or Tom and Jerry and Matrix 4 and stuff like that. Honestly, people definitely feel more positive about that. So yeah, overall, it is a pretty fascinating story, and who knows if it could actually reshape the way movies would distribute their films. But honestly, at this point of the game, at this point of at this point of the pandemic, I mean, it doesn't seem like they have any other options. And yeah, this is probably the best they could do. I'm just, someone even commented with some bits like, I'm just not having it, dude, not having it. All right, but maybe this is the best thing that they can do. Yes, a lot of people will miss seeing movies on the big screen, but what other options do we have? Let's be honest. All right, so with that said, now let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel with Warner Brothers' big plan of distributing their movies onto on to 2021. Do you think this is a great idea? Do you think this is a bad idea? Like, how do you feel about this? Which side are you on? More on Warner Brothers' side, or are you more on movie chain side? Let me know what you all think on this. And sweet merciful Neptune, my god, people already have like so much to say. Like, the chat wall is flooded with massive comments. Alright, let's see. I'm not sure how to feel about this news. While I understand Warner Brothers' decision for making their 2021 releases available on both HBO Max and theaters, considering we're still in a pandemic, but I'm worried that in the long run, theaters would end up losing even more money and would end up shutting down. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if Warner Brothers will do the same to their films in 2022, like The Batman, DC Super Pets, Fantastic Beasts 3, and many more. There could be a possibility, but I mean, like, even though they say for now it's just like a little test run, like, it depends on how things will go with 2021. Like, if the business does really good for Warner Brothers, then we would have a chance to see that maybe they'll continue on with this whole trend. Who knows? I mean, like, it's not like movie theater chains would have that much of a say on it. Let's see. I don't think they can pull this off. Oh? First of all, for Wonder Woman movie by Christmas, I'm pretty sure the virus will still go strong. Why would you go to the movies and watch Wonder Woman 1984 when you could just watch it at home? In general, this stupid experiment, in my opinion, will fail miserably. It wouldn't make sense to release a film in movie theaters and HBO Max simultaneously. A better idea would be to just release it on HBO Max alone. Like, kind of like what Disney is doing. So what you're basically saying is that this is not a good idea because it's pointless to release it on the big screen. And I mean, honestly, I do get where you're going with this, actually. I do get what you mean, mainly because that's the reason why everybody has so much of a major reaction to this. It's mainly because, technically, yes, it is kind of pointless for Warner Brothers to go and distribute it both, because, like, the more favorable option is to just stay at home and watch it on HBO Max because, number one, it's safer, and number two, it's less expensive. Like, at that point, it would just be stupid if you decide to go and check Wonder Woman 1984 on the big screen, where you would risk your health and you end up spending a lot more. Yes, you would get a better theatrical experience when watching the movie on the big screen, but still, like, your health and your finances are much more important than your little 2-hour experience of how you watch a certain movie. Let's see now. This is the biggest news ever in terms of theatrical distribution. I get why Warner Media is doing this, but to me, I think it's a good option to people that either want to see this in theaters or at home. Sure, I like to see Wonder Woman 1984, The Suicide Squad, Dune, and so on the big screen, but I prefer watching it at home to avoid spending too much money. Many, like AMC, may not like this, but they have to accept reality that the pandemic won't be going away anytime soon, despite the vaccine's existence. And on top of that, even if things do get better, like, one thing I did, I almost forgot to mention this, but even if the vaccines are done, like, not only people's habits are going to be hard to transition from watching things at home to watching it on the big screen, but movie theater chains are not going to stop the way that they are handling the pandemic. They will still have to accept limited capacity. They will still have to enforce wearing masks and social distancing and stuff like that. So there is also that factor that it's not even beneficial for studios for them to go and release their movies on the big screen because they wouldn't even make that much money to begin with. Let's see what else we got here. This is probably the best decision for Warner Brothers to do. This will please both people who want to go to the theaters and people who want to watch at home. I'm just hoping that the movie on HBO Max would not cost $30. I would also like to mention a news that you didn't cover is that Armin will team up with Bandai Namco to develop a brand new multimedia IP. Yes, there is also that news that is going on, but honestly, I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. And I mean, technically, there is also that news that Sony has brought on board Oscar Isaac to play as Solid Snake for the long-awaited Metal Gear Solid movie. But again, I'm not too familiar with the Metal Gear Solid games outside of Smash, so there isn't a whole lot for me to comment. So yeah, I am aware there isn't a lot that I didn't cover in this podcast. Let's see. Well, this was unexpected. I'm actually very mixed on how to feel. On one hand, Warner Brothers isn't going to make as much money, but on the other hand, it can help give a boost to HBO Max. I think the issue with HBO Max is similar to Disney Plus, where they don't have enough content that's worth to mention. So overall, I am incredibly excited to see how this could work out. Also, on a side note, screw the Snyder Cut coming to HBO Max. This is what HBO Max truly needs. Yeah, for once, actually, suddenly 2021 for HBO Max seemed to be a lot more positive now. Like, now the most anticipated thing is not the black and white Escape from Tomorrow style Snyder Cut of Justice League with the villain having way too many knives in his entire freaking body. So at least there is that. All right, I think I'll go and read one more comment because there is so many to go through with these. Let's see. Okay, I think I'll go with this one. I honestly think it's a brilliant idea for Warner Brothers and HBO Max. If I want to see The Matrix 4 and Dune on the big screen via drive-ins, well, I'll see Tom and Jerry at home. I just think this is a better option for the best and the safe way. Granted, I won't be back in regular theaters anytime soon, but drive-ins is the only option for me. Hopefully this will not be the end of cinema. Movie theaters are like home to me. This is why I belong. This is where I belong, and this is who I am as a person. All right, that's a very nice way to conclude this, and that will do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So I just want to say thank you all so much for coming over for this bit of news that we have to cover, and maybe we will see more of what 2021 will have in store. We are so close to the holidays, and we are so close to the new year, so it's going to be interesting how 2021 will roll out. So with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!